You ever pray and it feels like leaving a voicemail? Like you know somebody's supposed to be on the other end, but it just goes quiet. That's not normal. I know everybody tells you that's just what faith feels like after a while. It's not. You're not distant from God, you're drained. Like something's had its hand in your spirit for years, draining it a little at a time, and you've just been calling it a season. You've got the fruit of the Spirit on your vision board and the peace of a man defusing a bomb. You do everything right on paper. You believe, you show up, you try, and still underneath all of it, there's this low hum of dread that never fully turns off. You check your phone before you even open your eyes, and your spirit flinches before your mind does. Everyone around you says this is just what life is now: busy, tired, overwhelmed, wear it like a badge. But Jesus never told his disciples that peace was supposed to feel this optional. In John 14:27, he says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives." That's a promise, which means if you're not living in it, something's been intercepting the delivery. No one hands you a diagnosis for this. There's no name for it in casual conversation, so you borrow other people's words instead. Burned out, overwhelmed, just a rough season. But underneath those words is something more specific. You're functioning without being fed. You're performing calm while your spirit is running on empty, and the world around you rewards the performance, so you keep doing it because stopping feels riskier than continuing to fake it. And the gap, the one between what you believe on Sunday and what you actually feel by Wednesday, that's not a faith failure, that's a leak. So before we go any further, get quiet for a second. Not to relax, just to notice what's still underneath all the noise. Something in you is still listening. Good. Now let's name what's been stealing from it. There are 5 of them, and the uncomfortable part is you didn't just let them in. You've been feeding them. 1. The quarrelsome fool. That person, that comment section, that group chat that pulls you into conflict every single time. Proverbs 23 says it's to one's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. And Proverbs 22 goes further, warning not to associate with a hot-tempered person or you'll learn their ways and get yourself caught in a snare. You don't owe your peace to every hill somebody else wants to die on. 2. The anxious spiral. Doom scrolling instead of praying, rehearsing worst-case conversations that haven't happened yet, playing both parts, losing every argument in your head before it's even real. Jesus addresses this directly in Matthew 6, telling us not to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. Paul adds the fix in Philippians 4, saying not to be anxious about anything, but to bring it to God in prayer. And the peace that follows will guard your heart and mind. Worry is a request sent to a source that was never going to answer it, and every minute spent there is a minute your peace doesn't get back. 3. Comparison. Scrolling somebody else's highlight reel while you eat dinner standing over the sink. Proverbs 14:30 puts it almost violently, saying a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. Comparison doesn't just steal your joy, it audits your soul and always finds it short. 4. Bitterness. The grudge you keep because letting it go feels like letting them win. You replay it in the shower, in traffic, right before you fall asleep, and somehow it never gets old to you, even though it happened years ago. Hebrews 12:15 warns that a bitter root left to grow will cause trouble and defile many, meaning it doesn't just poison you, it eventually reaches the people around you too. Bitterness is you drinking the poison while you wait for them to feel it. 5. Double-mindedness, praying for peace at night and living in chaos all day, agreeing with God in church and arguing with him by Tuesday afternoon. James the One describes this person as a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind, never anchored long enough to receive what's being offered. You can't ask God for stillness while you keep choosing the storm. You're not just letting these 5 in, you're setting a table for them. Here's what nobody tells you. You're not faithless, you're leaking. There's a verse for this exact condition, and it's one of the most honest lines in the entire Old Testament. Jeremiah 2:13 records God saying his people had committed 2 sins, forsaking him, the spring of living water, and digging their own cisterns, broken ones that can't hold water. That's it. That's the whole problem in one image. You've been trying to hold water in something cracked. I'll say this plainly. There was a season where I stopped praying and didn't tell anyone. I still showed up. I still said the right things. But inside it was dry. I wasn't rebelling. I was just exhausted from pouring out to everyone and never letting anything pour back in. And I told myself that was discipline. It wasn't. It was a slow leak I'd stopped noticing. If that's you, hear this clearly. You are not weak in your faith. You are running on a cracked cistern, trying to survive off water that was never going to hold no matter how many times you refilled it. The exhaustion isn't proof you don't believe enough. It's proof you've been carrying a supply that was cracked from the start, and no amount of effort was ever going to patch it from the outside. And here's where it gets worse. Some of what you think has been refilling you has actually been part of the leak. 5 things that look like healing but aren't. 1. Busyness for God is not intimacy with God. Filling every serving slot at church while your actual prayer life sits empty. In Luke 10, Jesus tells Martha she's worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed, and Mary chose it by simply sitting at his feet. Output was never the substitute for presence. 2. Toxic positivity is not trust, saying, I'm blessed and highly favored while burying real grief underneath it. David didn't do that. In Psalm 42:11, he asks his own soul why it's downcast, why it's so disturbed within him before choosing to put his hope in God. He processed the sadness out loud instead of performing past it. God can handle your honesty far better than he can handle your performance. 3. Consuming content is not the same as obeying it. Endless sermons, endless devotionals, and none of it actually applied. James Burford 1:22 says not to merely listen to the word, deceiving yourselves, but to do what it says. You can be spiritually full and functionally starving at the same time. 4. Religious routine is not healing. Showing up out of habit with nothing behind it. Singing the songs, saying amen at the right moments, going home unchanged every single week. Isaiah 29:13 describes people who honor God with their lips while their hearts stay far from him. Repetition without presence is just noise with good posture. 5. Isolation is not the same as protecting your peace. Cutting everyone off, avoiding accountability, calling it a boundary when it's really just avoidance with better branding. Hebrews 10 warns against giving up meeting together, urging believers to spur one another on toward love and good deeds instead. Some of you didn't protect your peace. You just protected your isolation. None of this makes you a bad believer. It makes you a tired one who's been improvising. So let's talk about what actually works. And no, it doesn't require moving into a monastery. 1. Say no without building a theological defense for it. Nehemiah didn't. When he was pulled away from his work, he simply said, I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. No essay, no guilt tour. 2. Give God your first 10 minutes instead of your last 10. David writes in Psalm 5 that in the morning he lays his requests before the Lord and waits expectantly. Your phone can wait behind that. 3. Do a spiritual unfollow. The accounts and conversations that leave you anxious or comparing instead of covered. Stewarding your attention is not unloving. It's wisdom. 4. Make rest non-negotiable, not aspirational. Exodus 20 doesn't suggest the Sabbath, it commands it. Rest was never meant to be earned back after everything else got done. 5. Release one grudge this week. Just one. Joseph looked at the brothers who sold him into slavery and said, You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. That's not weakness. That's the strongest sentence in the whole story. 6. Let disappointing people be evidence you're healing, not failing. Paul asks plainly in Galatians 1 whether he's trying to win the approval of people or of God, because you cannot do both and stay free. 7. Let ordinary be sacred. A quiet evening with nothing to prove is not wasted time. It might be the most honest worship you offer all week. You are not cursed. You are not faithless. You are not too far gone for any of this to matter. You are at war. And peace was never going to arrive without a fight for it. Ephesians 6:12 tells us our struggle isn't against flesh and blood, but against powers and forces we can't see. Every drainer we named, the comparison, the bitterness, the busyness disguised as devotion, was never just a bad habit. It was a strategy. And it worked for as long as you didn't know its name. Knowing the name changes what you do the next time it shows up. You stop treating exhaustion like a personality trait and start treating it like a signal. You stop apologizing for needing rest and start defending it. You stop assuming the quiet, unraveling feeling in your chest is just what life is now and start recognizing it for what it actually is: a fight for something worth protecting. Remember the broken cistern. You were never meant to survive on something that couldn't hold water in the first place. Jesus tells the woman at the well in John 4 that whoever drinks the water he gives will never thirst again, because it becomes a spring welling up inside them. Not a bucket you keep refilling, a source. And that's what John 14:27 was pointing to from the very beginning. Not as the world gives. The world's peace depends on your circumstances holding steady. His doesn't. His holds even when the circumstances don't. If this landed anywhere in you, send it to the people who say they're blessed with tired eyes. The ones who quietly stopped praying and never told a soul. The ones white-knuckling through a season they still haven't admitted is hard. You weren't meant to carry this alone. And you were never meant to survive on a cracked cistern. There's a spring. It's still open.